Hello everyone, welcome back to another upSchool video. Today we're going to be learning about NCERT Class 9 Economy, Chapter 1. Topic is Factors of Production. This is the Lesson 1 video and stay tuned for the upcoming parts in this series. So the chapter that we're discussing is from NCERT Class 9 Economy, Chapter 1, The Story of Village Palampur. So in this Lesson 1 tutorial, we will be discussing introduction and the factors of production. The key terminology in this tutorial: farming, manufacturing, production, resources, factors of production, land, labor, physical capital, working capital, and human capital. Introduction. So the name of the chapter is Story of Village Palampur. Just by reading this, you may be confused, assuming that this chapter is about a village, just a story about a village. But that's not at all what this chapter is about. Village Palampur is basically a hypothetical village, which means it's not a real village. And it's just a made-up village so that we can understand village economy, and we will also be able to understand the concepts of production. Village is a small community, and in that community many economic activities take place. So to understand that, it has been given as the story of village Palampur. What is a village? So this hasn't it's not part of your syllabus, but I'm just explaining it for better understanding. So to understand what is a village, let's look into the settlement hierarchy. The settlement hierarchy is the hierarchy of the places in which humans tend to settle based on the population. So on the top are cities. Cities have the highest population of 100,000 people. Cities tend to be urban areas where there are less land and there's more buildings, and a lot of service activities take place in cities, and mostly highly educated and skilled people come to cities. Cities tend to be more developed than any other settlements, so that's why they have a lot of population. Next are towns. Towns are slightly less developed than cities, and they have a population of at least 25,000 people. Next are villages. Villages have at least a 3,000 population, and villages are mainly rural areas. There are many lands, there are less buildings, and they're just slightly underdeveloped and backward. Lastly are hamlets. Hamlets are inhabited areas, and only a few people, less than 100 people, live in hamlets. And they're usually in the outskirts, away from the majority of the population. So let's look into villages a little deeper. So villages tend to have rural settlements. They have at least 3,000 population, and the citizens are mainly engaged in farming activities due to the more availability of resources and farming agricultural education. And villages have a Gram Panchayat, which is the political system in villages. Village Palampur. So in this village, the main activity is farming, and not just this village, mostly all the villages in India, the main activity is farming, because villages have a lot of agricultural land, and many people have agricultural knowledge in villages as their ancestors have been doing the same farming, and also the resources and the availability of agricultural equipment is highly available in villages. So that's why the main activity in villages is farming. Even in this village Palampur, the main activity is farming. The other activities include manufacturing, shopkeeping, dairy, and teaching, which only the skilled, educated people in the village tend to engage in. So these activities are also called non-farming activities. So both of these activities, they require resources. So resources play a major role in economy, and resources is just anything that satisfies a need and has a value. So in class 8, this has already been discussed in the social studies portion. So links in description if you want to check that video out, which I've made a video about talking about resources. So resources can be divided into various types. There are natural resources, which are resources that are obtained from the nature. There are man-made resources, which are resources created by man. And there are human resources. Humans, the knowledge and the skills of humans itself make a resource. So that is human resources. So these main activities, these farming activities, and these non-farm activities, they all require resources in order for them to be engaged. The features of village Palampur. So in this village, the proximity is that it's well connected to other towns and cities. Transportation in this village, people tend to transport using bullock carts, tongas, motorcycles, jeeps, tractors, similar to many villages. Households. So in this village Palampur, there are 450 families, and there are 80 upper caste families who live in brick houses and they own most of the land. There are also 150 Dalit families who live in straw mud houses and they have no land. And the remaining are other castes, other families who have a medium middle class life. The infrastructure in village Palampur. So there are several electrical connections and there are irrigation facilities for everyone in the village. So the infrastructure is quite developed and everyone has minimum housing facilities. Education. In this village there are 2 primary schools and 1 high school. So that suggests that the education is quite developed. Health. The health infrastructure consists of 1 PHC, public health center, and 1 private hospital. So all of these suggest that village Palampur is a well-developed village because in all these features of the village it seems quite developed and it has good features that is able to be provided to all the people in the village. Production. What is production? Production means to create the goods and services that we want. In economy, production plays a major role because economy is all about the optimization of goods and services, and to create them is called production. So production involves converting raw materials to finished goods, and that process is production. Organization of production. This is also called the factors of production. In order for production to take place, there are many factors or many steps that are involved. These are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Let's look into these. So land literally means land, but also involves the natural resources required for production to take place, and that is water, forests, minerals, and other natural resources are required for production. So land is just the place where production takes place, but it can also relate to the other natural resources that are involved in production. The next factor of production is labor. Labor means the people who do the work. So in production, the people who do the work and they actually produce the goods, those humans that are involved are called labor. So the classification of labor is skilled labor and unskilled labor. Skilled labor means the more educated people who do the more educated labor jobs, and unskilled labor is the more manual jobs that don't require any skills. Capital. Capital means the input or tools required for production to happen. Fixed capital. So capital is divided into 2 types. Fixed capital means the tools that are fixed and can be used for a long time. For example, machines, buildings, and tools. These tools, they're used for a long time. They're fixed, so they never change. This capital will always be there. Next is working capital. So working capital are tools that are used up during production. It's always being worked up for. So in production, sometimes some capital is either fixed or it just gets used up. For example, money and raw materials. They are the capital, but after the production, they might go away. Entrepreneur. So this is the most important part of production. So the person with the idea and the person who holds the land and labor and capital is the entrepreneur. Without the entrepreneur, there will be no production. This is also known as human capital. So the entrepreneur is the person who takes risks. So this factors of production is also known as LLC. So that's very important to know. So that's about it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for the upcoming parts coming soon. Thanks for watching.